questions from you and give us insight into world events as they're taking place today. Also, I'd like to welcome those of you back from last week as well as from last season. We've been off the air for a couple months or so as the station went through some upholstery, so to speak, but nevertheless, we're back. We're in the new facility, and hopefully we can continue to bring to you information that we know you want to know about. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest for tonight, our special guest. That is the resident elder of the program, the elder of the New Covenant Congregation of Israel, Yaakov ben Israel.
Shalom.
Shalom, man. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good, thank you.
Elder, I'm glad to be back. I'm sure you're glad to be back, and people have been asking, where's the elder? So now we have you back to enlighten us even further into today's events as past, present, as well as today. But also I want to let our audience know we're at a different number now for you to call in. It's at 770-559-2999. That's 770-559-2999. We welcome your phone calls. Elder, it's been a long time since we had you on the program, and our viewers have got so accustomed to our reruns, but we know that despite that, we know that you're going to bring us some insight into some of the things happening around the world. Specifically, there's a few things I have on the plate here for you, at least you to address, and one of them I think is very important that many people have just sort of overlooked and have not taken it to heart, and that is this thing called the euro. Mm-hmm. There's an article in just past Sunday's paper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, that is, that the headline reads, "The euro is coming to a United States of Europe." Mm-hmm. Not the United States of America, but the United States of Europe. Mm-hmm. I'd like to know what type of impact that will have on the U.S. currencies, because it didn't say United States of America, and nor is there anything in here that implies that America would be a part of this conglomerate of nations that will be a part of that will make up this United States of Europe. What say you?
Well, when you really look at the currency that they're going to have on the market and how it's going to be backed up, it's backed by all the countries in Europe. And we understand that all of Europe is richer than America. Okay. And we understand also that right after World War II, America started taking the treasury notes off the market and giving us this paper that we use today to barter with. Right. So when it comes down to the euro, a lot of people like to say euro dollar, but they don't like to acquaint the word dollar with euro because of the dollar that the United States have. But that currency is going to make all the currencies on the earth obsolete. Mm-hmm. This is why when you get in the book of Revelations, it says that this last king, this last pope is going to cause all small and great, rich and poor, free and bond to receive that name, number, and mark. And listen to this, that no man might buy or sell. Well, the currency they're going to use is the euro dollar. Okay. You see, at first, the governmental system is going to use it. Okay. And then what they're going to do with it, in a couple of years, they're going to filter it down to the people. And I don't think it's going to, I really don't think it's going to stay in circulation that long, because eventually they got to get rid of all the currency anyways, because it's a high theft rate and when money is involved. And we understand that they have, regardless to how your computer system is, they got hackers. They go in there and break down and steal and so forth and so on. So I think basically what they're going to do is just put that on the market to really ruffle America's feathers and to let the world know, say, look, this is the power. This is the Roman Empire coming back together again. America wants to run it, you see, but America can't run it. According to history, America can't run it simply because, and when you read the prophets tell you that everything is going to be done on that Euro-Asian, African continent. Right. And as quiet as it's kept, at this time, once they get really set up, when everybody started receiving that name, number, and mark, America will be under the bottom of the sea. You see, so the thing of it is this, that euro is the Europeans are flexing their muscles with that euro. That's what they're doing around the world. But that currency is going to be the most powerful piece of currency on the earth, and it's backed up basically in Scripture.
Now, and I was going to ask that question because it talks about several nations being a part of this European Union that will be a part of one of the nations that will take part in using this currency. We know that the Germans and some of the other countries are involved. But it's strikingly similar to that of the nations that are spoken of as it relates to Scripture, because there was an image, for instance, that was seen by Daniel the prophet.
Right.
And he spoke about 10 heads and 10 horns, seven heads, 10 horns, 10 crowns, so forth. Give us some insight as to how this new thing here in Europe relates to the Scripture.
Well, when Rome fell in 476 A.D., census fell in 476 A.D., so far it's been 9 kings, 9 horns, that has come up, that has tried to revive the Holy Roman Empire.
So the
now,
kings represent, the horns represent
right,
kings.
The angel, there's no symbolism there. The angel told Daniel that the 10 horns are 10 kings that shall arise. So when you know who those kings, when you go back and read history of the Roman Empire, and you pick up those different kings, we'll find out that 9 of them has already passed. Mussolini was the 9th one. A lot of people like to say Hitler if they want to deal with that, then fine. But anyways, it happened in that time.
Right.
And the 10th one is on the scene today. This is why they're trying to pull this whole world order together. But what's interesting about that is this. It's going to deal with governmental systems, right? Brother, this so-called African American haven't got a governmental system. So how will we be able to function as a nation of people within that beast?
Why we call ourselves African Americans then?
That doesn't make us a nation of people. There's no place called Africa America. We don't have any land. We don't have any land. The president was just over in Africa signing all those agreements, right? Not one African said, when you going to let our people come home? Right. And the president didn't say, where y'all going to put all these people of y'all's over here? We're going to let them come back home. No one wants us simply because we're not Africans. See, we claim to be African Americans, but when you read the Bible, you find 2 races of black people. And one race, the Hebrew Israelites were black, and they're going to be in captivity when the Messiah comes. But we know the black folks I know in captivity, you know. So the thing that they're trying to really set up by going to Africa, you understand what's happening with the United States. Now, at one time, remember the Alamo? Okay, so at one time, America just didn't want to deal with Mexico, with the Mexicans. This is why Mexico was so poor, you see. But once Europe started putting this beast together, this one world order together, then the United States knew that she had to have some trading power to deal with Europe because the money ain't no good. Right. So what she did was she went and signed NAFTA. Well, see, in the process of signing NAFTA, what that did was this. It was a lot of menial jobs that our people used to do that the Hispanics are getting those jobs now. Now he went down to South America and signed those agreements with the Latinos down there, and those are the ones that's going to come in and take over the jobs in the cooperative structure. You know, it's interesting. There was a report on the radio said that by the year 2003, Latinos or Spaniards or what have you, people of that descent, will be the largest non-white entity or group or race of people in America, or at least in Georgia. By 2005, they would be the largest non-white ethnic group in America. Well, they're already the largest in California. They are, well, the Indians are they're just about the largest rather than Nevada. But in California, in Texas, you have an influx of Mexican all around the border towns and so forth. And look what happened in Florida. See, they came in, the Cubans came in, and now they call Miami Little Havana. You see, so what's really happening is this. Just like the scripture said that this one world governmental system is going to destroy the mighty and the holy people. Right. Well, when you look and see who's being destroyed, it's us that's being destroyed. It's not any of the other nations. The other nations are prospering. But see, by us not having a viable, well, viable or non-viable, without us having a governmental system and a currency or something that we deal with, then surely today we can very well see what we are. We're still in captivity and we're still sharecropping. Why don't we have a system that represents this so-called African American, so-called Negro, this black race of people?
why isn't there a governmental system that governs our activities, or our economies? And I mean, we know we are some of the largest consumers here in America, but why don't we have a governmental system?
Well,
do we have one?
Well, you have to go back. We got a governmental system. We just don't know what it is yet.
Okay.
You have to go back you have to go back quite a few years, maybe 4,000 years or better. See, when Yahweh brought our people out of Egypt, he was our king.
Okay.
But once we got in our land, we desired to have a man put over us as a king and refused our king, right? So if we refused our king, then he gave us a law to deal with. Well, that was to govern our governmental system with and the people with. So what happened was, seeing that we rejected those things and didn't do those things, then naturally the government, our king, kicked us out of his land, right? And here we are over here, not even a people anymore. So the governmental system had to be governed by righteousness through the laws of God. And we don't have those things simply because we didn't do what we were supposed to do in the beginning. And Yahweh told us he's going to put us in captivity. It's in Deuteronomy 28 chapter, in a land that our fathers did not know of. And all the other nations was going to get high above us, and we were going to become the tail. And Daniel, the prophet Daniel, told you that this last governmental system was going to destroy the mighty and the holy people. Now, what's interesting is that in the book of Revelations, John the Revelator in the 13th chapter of Revelation added something else to that beast. Daniel said 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, John the Revelator said 7 heads, 10 horns, and 10 crowns. But those are the 10 major countries that's going to run that European monetary system, and they're listed in the newspaper. And those are the same ones that tried to run it each time it came up and failed. Each time they tried to put it in place, the same ones are there in the newspaper today. It's the same countries that's going to run that. They're going to be the one that wield the real power, like a council.
Right.
They'll be the one that wield. They will, just like the United States have senators and congressmen and so forth, advisors to the president,
Right.
what they're supposed to do. Well, see, once they get that set up, those 10 countries will be advisor to this last king that man is going to put up, that the Pope is going to say is the Messiah.
Let me read, just to back up what you were saying. Here in the newspaper, it says 11 are expected to be founding members. Speaking of the nations that are going to be a part of the European Union. 11 are expected to be founding members. Austria, Belgium, Finland, France, Germany, Spain, Ireland, Italy, Luxembourg, the Netherlands, Portugal. They will phase in the new currency January 1, 1999 for financial and banking markets and introduce the bank notes and coins for the general public 3 years later. For national and economic reasons, Britain, Sweden, Denmark, and Greece have decided not to join the monetary union for now. Now, that's about 15 countries that now, to fulfill the prophetic sayings, it would definitely have to weed out 5 countries. Now, at one point in time, I'm sure there was more. Now we're down to 15.
Well, what you have to do is you have to look at Italy.
Okay.
Now, in order to be a member of the EC, your economy got to be straight.
True.
And Italy's economy is in shambles. They owe out 3 times more than their gross national product. So what it is that the nations is they're going to try to force Italy out of it. As a matter of fact, this is the scripture tell you that those 10 kings are going to hate the whore, the Roman Catholic Church, and the Christian Church, and burn them with fire. Okay. You see, and so we can very well see that it's only going to be 10 nations that's going to govern that whole system. But then what's going to come up on the scene later is a king, right? And once that king come up on the scene, they're going to declare him to be the Son of God. See, what Satan is trying to, when you read Isaiah 14 chapter, Satan said he was going to be just like the Most High. Okay. So what he's done, he's thrown up a smoke screen. You see, he's thrown up an illusion that the Son of God has returned. And when you get in Revelations 6th chapter, reading about the opening of the seals, heaven opened.
Okay.
And then later on, when you get back into Revelations, I think it's Revelation 18 chapter, heaven opens again. You see what I mean? So it can't open but one time. So what they're going to try to set up is this. They're going to try to set up the fact that the Messiah has returned, right? And then later on, after he rules, after the Pope calls everybody to worship him as the Son of God, then he's going to show on the scene and say that he is God. He's the Father. And this is the way the resurrection is set up. The Messiah is supposed to rule 1,000 years. Then after the 1,000 years, then his Father will be on the new heaven and the new earth, you see. So he's trying to set up that vision on the earth. That's what's happening. But this is what's interesting about this last beast. It's in Revelation 13 chapter. Okay. John the Revelator said in verse 1, I stood on the sands of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And in verse 6 it says, and he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. We're not of our power. We've already been defeated. Right. We don't know nothing about war. And all the nations, everybody knows when people come here from foreign countries, they are warned not to move in our neighborhoods, simply because all of the curses that God put upon us is what's keeping us down. Man isn't doing it. Right. See, like the prophet said, the house of Judah will be among the nations like a lion, you see, which if he rise up, he'll go through and tear up everything. Right. But see, what has happened was this. Yahweh has put us down so that when he returns, see, and redeem us and destroy his power on the earth, then same thing happened in Egypt. Egypt was a desolation when we left, right? America is going to be a desolation when we leave here. It cannot, it's impossible for America to be part of the UN.
You know, speaking of desolation.
I mean, not the UN, the EC.
The EC. You know, speaking of desolation, we talked about the destruction of America, and we get some rumbles here in the studio. Hopefully that's not the end. But
not yet. Certain things, prophecies got to be fulfilled. Certain things got to happen before the end comes. True. People say, "Well, Christ can come tomorrow." No, he can't. Right. He can't come until certain things that what the prophets had to say is put in place. Once that is put in place, and the time period elapsed of 2,520 years, giving the nation to rule, then he can come, but not before then.
Well, you know, speaking of destruction, and you talked about earlier, you talked about the euro coming on the scene. That's going to devalue the currency here in America for certain. I'm sure it's going to lead to some type of economic hysteria here in America. Now, you have Clinton going over to Africa trying to bring democracy to Africa. I'm sure it's there in some portions. But speaking about that destruction and speaking about the so-called downfall of America, how is that going to come to play? I mean, will it start from an economic standpoint and then go into some other direction, or?
That's the way you first get a people, mess with their money, right? Once that dollar is devalued, America's a debtor nation. Okay. See, she used to loan money, but now she's a debtor nation because what she's trying to do is this. This girl is trying to buy her lovers. Look at the money she's giving these different countries every day. $1.5 million to Israel, $7 million to Israel, $1.3 million to Rwanda, $1.6 million. This is a daily money that she's giving, trying to buy. But see, the reason why she's doing it in Africa is because they got Mandela in place. Okay. Now the gold is flowing again. So they're trying to get as much of that as they can, because America hasn't gotten the gold. She spent it all paying for the Second World War. That's why she had to borrow. Right. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to, like I said, buy her lovers before the Arabs do it. See, the Arabs is in the process of doing things in Africa also, and they consider the Arabs to be the Antichrist, which they are. And they don't want the Antichrist to get in there and eat up everything before she puts her hand in there. And this is basically what all of that trade thing. She's trying to gather as much power as she can to be a formidable adversary against Europe. But it can't work, simply because Yahweh said, I've laid a snare for you and you're taken. Right. See, the nation's going to see what's under your skirts. And what's under her skirts is the fact that her secret is that she have the children of God, the house of Judah, and the Lord's kings and his priests in captivity.
Well, and once again, I'm just glad that you can come on and speak about these things, because you really just don't hear this kind of talk in everyday conversation.
Do you think Satan gonna tell you his plan? Okay, that's why they don't talk about it in church. They hit around it. But Satan is, the deceiver is not going to give you his plan. I mean, and show you something, show you a real simple explanation of that. I should say metaphor. What happened was, just like when they changed the Sabbath day from Saturday to Sunday, right? You ask the average person, say, well, why do you go to church on Sunday? Well, I know Saturday is the Sabbath day, but we changed it. You see? So what they're saying is all right for them to change God's stuff and do what they want to do. So what Satan has done is this, told man, said, look, you're a God. You see? And you don't have to do nothing, God. See, all you got to do is just believe and be a Christian. And when you die, you're going instantly to heaven, right? I mean, you hear it at funerals.
Right.
Preachers say, well, they're in heaven now. And you know it was the biggest hell raiser in town, right? Well, he's in heaven now. You looking at him laying there. When the Messiah, when Ezekiel and, Enoch and Elijah went to heaven, they went to heaven whole soul and body, didn't they? See? But what they're telling me is here's the man laying there, and some little intricate part of him is up in heaven. Well, what's the sense of the resurrection of the dead when the Messiah comes?
Adam was a dead soul in the beginning.
Right. Then when God blew the breath of life into his nostrils, he became a living soul. Well, see, that's what's going to be raised up when the Messiah returns. He said, touch me, feel me, it's I myself. You got any meat? He ate and so forth with him, right? Then he disappeared, right? Well, man don't see that. Man see himself better than the Messiah. He's more important. So he's going up to heaven, and he's going to stay under heaven, and he's going to be protected from the great tribulation that's going to come on everybody, small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, according to the Scripture, right? So they're saying they're going to be whisked off to never land and avoid all of that, and then they're going to come back down here. Now, Yahweh only gave them 2,520 years to rule, right? Now they're going to come back down here and take over the earth again and reign forever, and we'll always be slaves then, won't we? Yeah.
I heard a man today talking about, he called himself explaining the difference between Israel and the church. And we're going to talk about Israel.
Okay.
I want to get to that as well. But he was called himself explaining the difference between Israel and the church, and said the children of Israel, the natural children, are going to simply inherit the land, the earth, and the church is going somewhere else. But
Israel is the church.
I hear the Around the World Report music, so we're going to go to that and we'll come back and deal with Israel 50-year Jubilee.
Okay.
And this is the Signs of the Times Around the World Report. Just weeks ago, DeKalb County, Georgia was the recipient of national media attention for National Disaster of the Week. It's like they repaved Tornado Alley and made it a super highway. Even certain skeptics are starting to use the adjective biblical to describe the increased violence in recent weather patterns. We are offered a rational scientific explanation for the phenomena, El Nino. Of course, there is no scientific explanation for El Nino itself, only a biblical one. Nations Bank has announced plans to merge with Bank America Corporation. The $62.8 billion merger will create a coast-to-coast bank with more assets than any other bank in the United States. That is how bank mergers work. When banks merge, other banks have to merge to have enough assets to compete with them. It's an inevitable progression toward a single world bank. Also, Bank One Corporation and First Chicago NBD announced a $28.8 billion merger to create the Midwest dominant bank. The Army is launching a pilot program that uses smart cards on military bases. The cards read the fingerprint of the user and are supposed to be almost impossible to counterfeit. Over 18,000 of these cards have already been issued to basic training recruits at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Human rights. The UN has special independent agents that carry out inspections in various countries. The most famous example of these is the UN weapons inspectors in Iraq. But the UN doesn't only inspect for weapons. The UN also inspects for environmental and human rights violations. Former President Jimmy Carter is now pushing for a World Human Rights Court. By its very nature, such a court would require a law code to enforce, and by its very nature, the jurisdiction of such a court would supersede national borders. The definition of human rights is the most powerful ideological weapon in the world today. UN bureaucrats define human rights, and the UN then decides which nation's national sovereignty will be compromised to enforce these human rights. If a country is engaged in a practice that the UN defines as a violation of human rights, they send inspectors in. If the violation is verified, various methods such as political pressure and sanctions can then be imposed on the offending country. The UN also has torture experts on its way to Turkey. Death penalty experts will be going to Iraq, which executes thousands each year, many for speaking against the government. The murderous regime in Algeria has refused to let the UN come into their country. These, most would agree, are noble pursuits, but how far does it go? The definition of human rights encompasses not only atrocities like torture, but also the death penalty, spanking children, and treatment of prisoners. The list goes on. Treaty law can override international law. Death penalty inspectors have also been to China and the U.S. Yes, the United States death penalty is a human rights violation as defined by the UN. The United Nations body has urged all countries to put a moratorium on executions and work toward abolishing the death penalty. In other UN news, reports have surfaced that the UN had advanced warnings about the massacres in Rwanda and did nothing. Revenge of the nerds. High school is becoming a very dangerous place. There have been 4 lethal school-related shootings in the United States in the past 6 months. A teacher was just killed at a high school dance last week. 4 students were killed at a middle school in Jonesboro, Arkansas last month, and 3 students were killed at a high school in West Paducah, Kentucky in December. And last October, 2 students were killed at a high school in Pearl, Mississippi. And finally, a historic summit between North and South American leaders in Chile has produced the first steps to plans to launch a hemispheric free trade zone by 2005. The initiative also has a complex agenda, including a bold, at least on paper, social agenda with hemisphere-wide government education programs. It takes a hemisphere. That's been the Around the World Report for tonight. Now back to our regular program.
Hi, and welcome back to Signs of the Times. Tonight we're talking with the elder, the resident elder of the program, Yaakov Ben Israel. He's the elder of the New Covenant Congregation of Israel, located in Clarkston. And we was talking a little bit about the euro, this new currency that will be used throughout Europe, actually. And we also wanted to touch on a couple other issues here, namely that of Israel, them having their 50th year Jubilee and a few other things. But Elder, before we go there, I just want to read a quote here from the that same article in Sunday's paper. It said, ironically, not since the Roman Empire has Europe's economy operated on a continental scale with a single currency. Mm-hmm. And earlier you was talking about how Europe and the Catholic Church and the Pope and things of that sort. And, you know, I know from just hearing you on the show other times, you spoke of Europe as like Babylon, mm-hmm. and then America being the daughter of Babylon, mm-hmm. and so forth. But what do you think about that comment?
Well, Europe, you have to look at Europe for what it is. Europe spawned America. The Europeans came over here and set up their governmental system, right? Now, we know that Rome fell in 476 AD, mm-hmm. and it's been constant wars since 476, different Europeans trying to revive it, trying to put that back in place, right? Well, Daniel told you it would be 10 horns. Mm-hmm. So it's been 10 times that would come up, that people would come up, and we know the names of all the kings. We got them on the chart at NCCI. They would come up and try to revive the Holy Roman Empire, but the thing of it is this: the last ones will revive it. But see, you know what's going to make everybody really, really worship that beast?
What's that?
Because the people consider them imposters over in Israel to be the Jews. And they're going to, Daniel told you, they was going to confirm a covenant with the Pope. Now remember, not too long ago they met with the Pope, right? They're going to confirm the covenant with the Pope for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, they're going to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, right? So from my understanding, what's going to happen is that the Israelis is going to start sacrificing to whoever it is that they put up as a king.
Wait a minute now. Sacrificing. I mean, I thought the animal sacrifices and all that stuff was over with.
I'm not just speaking of animal sacrifice. I'm talking
okay.
about sacrificing monies, times, and your personal life for that beast, to be put in a position to worship that beast. See, the scriptures say, all will worship him, whose names are not written in the Lamb's book of life that was slain from the foundation of the earth. So what they're really trying to do by doing that, now we know that we're expecting the Messiah to return, right, and redeem us out of this captivity. See, Israel can't return to the land until the Messiah comes, because we know that once America falls and we get out of here, no one's going to want 30, 40, 50 million of us in their country. Because so what we're going to do, we're going to be in a place that Yahweh has already prepared for us, just like he did before. But during that time, what's going to happen is this. The Pope is going to take over from this last king, like Daniel said in the 11th chapter, he shall not regard his father's God, he shall not regard any women, but he shall magnify himself above all. In other words, he will be God upon the scene, and then everybody will be put in a position to worship him, right? Well, he shouldn't have done that, because that's what's going to help get your big brother ready to come and take over this. Man has reached his fullness. Back up in the Genesis, once man built that tower, he said, seeing that they did this, nothing will be withheld from him. So we can very well see that nothing has been withheld from him, and man has put himself in the position of God. And that's basically what Satan is trying to do, is to deceive the whole world and take this whole thing from the children of Israel. It's just like...
Elder, hold that point while you're there. Let's go to a phone call. We have a call. Caller, go ahead.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, glad you guys are back on the air.
We're glad to be back.
My name is Lawrence Holloway. I called last season. I had a question. Could you explain the Christian's Jubilee and when are you coming out with a new calendar?
Good questions.
Thank you.
Number one, the calendar is at the printer. Okay. It costs a ton of money, man. It was $6,000 to do 500 calendars, you know. So, but anyways, the calendar is currently at the printers.
Okay.
And we've been struggling, trying to get these monies together, because we don't ask anybody for anything, you know. So we've been trying to do this thing on our own. Now, as far as Jubilee is concerned, when you get in Leviticus, Yahweh told us that every 50 years we should have a Jubilee. That's when everything goes out free. Now, so far, the Israelis, since they've been there since 1948, they're saying that this is their year of Jubilee. Well, then if this is their year of Jubilee, then all of the captive people on the earth has to return back to their own land, right? Well, all we got to do is this, see if we're going to return. You see, but when you get into the prophets, into the law book told you when the Jubilee would start. The Jubilee would start on the Day of Atonement, you see. And everybody's going to hear the trumpet when it sounds, because the trumpet, we used to have a song, a Negro spiritual, they used to sing, where shall I be when the first trumpet sound? And the answer was, I'll be somewhere listening for my name. You see, so it's the same trumpet of the Jubilee that we're waiting for. See, this is why God told us to keep his holy days, because they meant so much to us, you know. Something going to happen. So the year Jubilee, regardless what them imposters over in Israel are talking about, see, if you notice, they don't do nothing God say. They throw out that Yom Kippur, right, and Passover, right? And what's that? The Festival of Lights, Festival of Dedication. Now, that last one there, that wasn't even ordained by God. That was set up by man. But see, they keep these things. But what about thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not bear false witness against your neighbor? I remember when the Israelis first went into the land, brother, I was a little kid. Everything used to shut down on Friday afternoon. Then the tourists started coming in there. Now everything's wide open again. So when you read the prophets told you that Jacob's brother Esau had taken his place.
Right.
See, he sold us his birthright. Now he called himself getting his birthright back, right? But it ain't gonna work because see, Paul, according to the New Testament, well, look at it this way: every word written in this Bible was written by the Hebrew Israelites. But see, everybody tried to tell, and according to the Bible, they were black folks, not the white. Now everybody trying to tell me, say, well, you know, the church is Israel today.
With that, we'll come back to that. Let's go. Oh, the call is gone? Okay, I thought we had a call. All right, we'll come back to that. Right. That's what I was talking about earlier. The guy was saying, well, the church, he was trying to make a distinction between the two and saying, well, the natural people would just inherit the land, whereby the church will inherit the universe. What say you? Oh, wait a minute, we got that call. Hold 1 second here. Go ahead, caller. Caller, are you there?
He hung up.
Okay. If you'd like to give us a call, we're at 770-559-2999. That's 770-559-2999. Elder, go ahead.
Well, let's look at it this way. The covenants that God made was made with Hebrew Israelites.
Okay.
When the Messiah came, his blood sealed up the new covenant with the Hebrew Israelites. It's in Hebrews, it's in Jeremiah 31st chapter, and then it was prophesied in Jeremiah 31, and then in Hebrews 7 and 8, it tells you that the new covenant was made with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. But let me read you a piece of scripture here, and this should take care of that. It's in the 3rd chapter of Romans in the New Testament.
And while you looking for that, Elder, just want to let our callers know, when you're calling, just let the phone ring. We see the call coming in. Just let the phone ring, and we'll pick up and put you on the air. Let the phone ring. I think a couple of you have called, and you've hung up before we actually answered the phone. So we see the call. Just let the phone ring, and we'll take your call. Go ahead, Dan. I'm sorry.
Paul said in the 3rd chapter of Romans, he said, what advantage then has the Jew, or what profit is there in circumcision? Much every way, chiefly because unto them were committed the oracles of God. So the Israelites has an advantage, right? Now, the church come in and tell me, say, no, you don't have no advantage no more. Well, why did Paul say we did?
And I'm kind of curious as to what church we're talking about.
Satan's church. The Christian church, if you're Christian, you're Catholic, right? And them Christians worship Satan. See, them Christians worship Satan. This is why they don't do nothing the Bible say. They say we're not under the law, we're under grace, right? Paul says in the 2nd chapter of Romans in verse 13, for not the hearers of the law are just before God, but the doers of the law shall be justified.
Now you know some folks done jumped this house.
Man, I don't care nothing about that.
What?
I don't care nothing about
Worship
that.
what?
I don't care nothing about
Let's
that.
go to the phones. Caller, go ahead. State your name, please.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, my name is James Irby, and I've seen the episode when you hold on a second.
I'm sorry. We got time is valuable.
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay, time is valuable, so
Okay.
don't put us on hold.
I've seen an episode when you had a episode about how the Hebrews knew the turning of the year, which was the new year.
Okay.
What scripture was that in?
Okay, good question, El.
What you do is go
Thank you,
back.
caller.
What you do is go back up into the book of Exodus when the children of Israel came out when they left the land of Egypt.
Okay.
God told the children of Israel, said, "This month shall be the beginning of months to you. It shall be the beginning of your year."
Okay.
And he told them Abib, which corresponds to March, April. It falls on the new moon in March and goes to the new moon in April,
Okay.
to the first moon in April. So that's the way you deal with when the year began. But in Romans 9th chapter, brother, Paul said in verse 4, Paul said that the Israelites was given the covenants, the adoption, the glory, the giving of the law, the service, the promises, all the things of God was given to the Israelites. All the apostles were Israelites, right? The Messiah was an Israelite, right? The Israelites was the one that left us the Bible,
Okay.
right? The covenant, Christ's blood sealed the new covenant with our people.
Okay.
The nations was grafted into it. Do you know it was 10 years after Christ was resurrected from the dead before anybody from the other nation was even allowed into the church? You see, so we set up churches among them, And now what they've done, they've taken it over and said, now we are spiritual Israel, right? Well, according to Revelation 7 chapter, when right after the Great Tribulation period, and the seventh seal was opened, and an angel came out and said, don't hurt anything till we've sealed the servants of our God in their forehead. Everybody talk about they're serving God. Right. But according to Revelation 7, it was 12,000 servants from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, 144,000. Right. You know, the nations tried to get up in the, well, Dan's not mentioned here, so that means that we was grafted in. Well, everything else God had to say, He made it plain.
What's interesting even about that is they say we were grafted in, but then they say the philosopher was Dan.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. And then, you know, and when seeing that you mentioned the philosopher, brother, most of our people didn't know there was even black Jews. I mean, a lot of black Jews, until the war broke out in Ethiopia and they start secretly airlifting us back up into country. Why do you think it was a secret airlift? It was secret because they figured if our people would see that in the news and then see black people being moved up into Africa, and they're not Africa and they're Jews, they'll know what's going on. But see, they keep us into that Christmas and Easter and all that other junk, so we didn't see it.
Let's go back to the phones. Caller, go ahead, and we're at 770-559-2999. Go ahead, caller. Caller, are you there?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Elder, did you attend the Worldwide Church of God back in the early 70s? Because you look familiar, and are you still keeping the Feast of Tabernacle?
Good question.
My sister, I haven't attended a Christian church since 1941. Okay. No, it wasn't me, dear. And as far as the Feast of Tabernacles is concerned, we keep all of the feast days in their season on the exact day. We use a Hebrew calendar according to the Bible, and we keep all of God's feast days that's written in Leviticus 23rd chapter and the ones that's written also in Numbers. So we will definitely, if Yahweh gives us health and strength, we will be keeping the Feast of Tabernacles in its appointed season in the 7th month of our year, of our calendar year.
Tell us where you're located, Elder, so for those who may want to come and keep the feast.
Well, we're located at 3711 North Decatur Road in Clarkston, Georgia, and that's I think it's 332, right?
Okay. And
we're in Clarkston, Georgia, and we are there. We have class seminars on Tuesday night at 8, Sunday morning at 10:30. We have a prophecy class. Thursday night at 8, we have a sisters class for sisters only, and then on the Sabbath day at 1 p.m. we have our regular seminars.
Speaking of the calendar, I've seen the calendar, and the calendar is dynamite.
Yeah.
And you know, you spoke earlier about it being at the printers. What do we expect to see? How is it different from the old calendar?
Well, this one has more information, and plus this year we try to do it in color.
Okay.
We try to do it in color, but that color is very, very expensive to do. But we did a few of them in color, and what's really different about this calendar here is that it gives you more updated information than last. It's a year's change.
Right.
So the difference in the calendar would be, and another thing was different in it too, brother. The people that the work that went into this one. We did more in this one than we've done in the other calendar. But see, the thing of it is, it's got the dates on it. But people don't need to, they can go to the grocery store and get a calendar with the dates on it. It's the information.
That's true.
That's in the calendar. And the information is up to date with what's going on according to the prophecies in the Bible. So people can read that calendar and get a pretty good understanding of what's going on in their immediate surroundings, what's going on in the global community, and what's going on as far as our people and God is concerned, and what Satan is doing to try to destroy us. And when you look through the calendar, you can just look at the pictures in the calendar.
Right.
And
it tells the story.
Right, and go to the public library, and the pictures tell the story.
Okay.
It tells the story of exactly who we are.
Let's go back to the phones, and we'll try to get as many calls as we can in, because people are glad to see us back on the air. So we're at 770-559-2999. Sir, ma'am, whoever, caller, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one question. Who are these people out in Edenton with all these pyramids, if you've ever seen them?
Good question.
What do you say? I didn't hear.
People, the group, there's a group of people that have gathered down in Eatonton, Georgia, about 90 miles outside of Atlanta, and they have this they're called Nubians or something Nubians or what have you. But
Are they Africans?
I don't know what they claim to be quite honest with you.
Because the
I think
original-
they claim to just simply be Nubians, and they got pyramids and the whole thing. But one thing about it, they have a charismatic leader out there that claimed to be the Messiah, the Archangel Michael, a few other things too.
Jim Jones, David Koresh, you know. Yeah,
Right.
we know.
Right.
So what I think about them? Nothing.
I guess it's not much to think about.
It's not nothing. It's just David Koresh did the same thing. He just didn't have a pyramid. Look at what happened with Jim Jones.
Right.
He just didn't have a pyramid. You
Right.
see, when we look at the pyramids, we have to understand that the Scripture tells us that the Hebrew Israelites built the treasure cities of Ramses and Pithom. See, those were our people that built the pyramid. But see, we were in captivity at that time. You see, so what they're doing, the Japanese tried to build a pyramid once. Everybody trying to build a pyramid because they think the pyramid has so much power, right?
Right.
Well, you can take any prism, a triangular prism,
Right.
and concentrate the light in the right place. You're going to get some heat somewhere.
Right.
You're going to get so, but it's nothing really in the pyramids. It was used for a lot of paganism. They put a man in there with all his gold and everything, and then they talk about, well, he's up in the constellation of Orion. No, he ain't. There he is laying there. They didn't dig up Tutankhamun.
Right.
Well, there he was laying there. He wasn't up there. You see, so when they deal with pyramids and so forth, those are nothing but symbols and signs that were set up on the earth by paganistical people for paganistical reasons.
Well, let's go back to the
Even
phone.
the Africans don't want to know what the pyramid is all about.
Right. They got a replica of a pyramid out in Las Vegas. I believe.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the phones. Caller, go ahead. State your name, please. Caller, are you there? Oh, I guess we lost that call. Elder, you were speaking about the Jubilee, and you spoke a little bit about, well, we know, based upon things you've said before, that the Israelis went in that land back in 1948 or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been 50 years since they've been in the land now. According to the scriptures, you said that the Feast of Jubilee will come on the Day of Atonement, is that right? Okay.
On the Day of Atonement, after the Messiah comes back to the earth.
Now, why do we, oh, wait a minute, we got a call, I'm sorry. Caller, go ahead, state your name, please. Caller, go ahead. Did we lose that call? Well, okay, we'll try it next time. We know this is not the Day of Atonement. We know this time is not the Day of Atonement.
Right.
So how all of a sudden we have a Feast of Jubilee?
Well, the next Jubilee will come about. We're right at the time, right in the time of our deliverance.
Okay.
Yahweh told Abraham we'd be here 400 years. So right around the turn of the century would be just about 400 years. And the year Jubilee will start on the Day of Atonement. Now, when you read the scripture and understand the war of Armageddon, the war of Armageddon is going to take place when? On the Day of Atonement. See, this is when all the dead bodies was down. Remember we read in Zechariah, all dead bodies all over the earth, and that valley there full of dead bodies and all that blood and so forth. And then what happened? The Lord blew the trumpet. The Lord Himself blew the trumpet on the 10th day of the 7th month, which is Day of Atonement.
Okay.
See, and you can see the great mourning for the people was having because all them 200 million people just got killed off, you
Right,
see.
right.
And that's when it's going to happen. And that is a few years off from now. It's less than 10. And it's more than 3.
Right.
But it's less than 10. So that's going to happen during that time. So, but see, you got to understand what's happening. The Israelis is coming out with these little tidbits of stuff.
Right.
Nothing concrete. The year Jubilee, we've been in the land 50 years, Well, if that's the case, in 50 years, you're supposed to let everybody go free then, right? Well, then why don't they stop bothering those Palestinians now? It's the 50th year, isn't it? Well, then, according to the scripture now, they say they're the Jews. They believe the scripture, then leave the Palestinians alone. You see, but it's just them hoodlums, those imposters over there, claiming to be you. They've taken your place, and guess what? According to the scripture, my God is going to destroy the whole seed. We won't have to worry about that no more. See? Like He told them, say, whoever touch you, touch the apple of my eye, I will recompense it. And when you look, and to show you what's going on, look at the plagues that came upon Egypt, right? It was 10 plagues that came upon Egypt with the killing of the firstborn males, right? Now, It's going to be 14 plagues that's going to be poured out upon Europe and America. Only 4, well, it's 8 that's going to be poured out on America. Mm-hmm. And when you look around and you look at all of the tornadoes, mm-hmm. and the floods that America has had, all the fires, the forest fires and so forth that mm-hmm. she's had, you can very well see that Yahweh is telling the nation, let my people go. But see, he said, they that held them captives refused to let them go. Didn't he harden Pharaoh's heart so he wouldn't let us go, so he can get him some glory? So when America, the prophet called America, Jeremiah and Isaiah, called it the daughter of Babylon. Uh-huh. So once the daughter of Babylon falls, then everything will be set up back over there in Europe, and then that's when 3.5 years after they get their stuff set up, and Pope get his stuff set up rather, then that's when the Messiah is going to show on the scene. And as a matter of fact, the prophet Daniel told you almost to the day.
Well, Elder, with that, glad to have you back. We're glad to be back, and hopefully our audience will join us next week, same time, 8 p.m. live here at Media One Studios. And give us a call next week, 770-559-2999. And Elder, appreciate you.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right. Yeah, that's going to be it's going to be an interesting kind of thing to see how this